Called certain 2022 and 2023 Tundra and Tundra hybrid trucks. This is the company's largest recall of the year. It impacts 168,000 trucks.
For 50 years, the American dream was the 20-year car. A Toyota Camry or a Ford truck that you could fix in your driveway with a $200 socket set and a Saturday afternoon. That dream is officially dead. In 2026, we've entered the era of the disposable SUV. We're seeing a massive erosion in automotive digital maturity where manufacturers are no longer building mechanical assets, they are building software-defined platforms with an expiration date. Between the skyrocketing total loss frequency from ADAS sensor damage and the move towards zonal architecture that makes minor repairs financially catastrophic, your 2026 model isn't built to be passed down to your kids, it's built to be bricked and recycled before the loan is even paid off. Here is the forensic data on why your new car is a ticking financial time bomb. The story of the disposable car doesn't begin with an engine rusting out after 25 years. It begins with a silent black screen. The single biggest source of complaints for new vehicles today isn't the engine or the transmission. It's the infotainment system. According to the J.D. Power 2024 U.S. Multimedia Quality and Satisfaction Study, infotainment remains a massive headache for new car owners, with a staggering 43.7 problems reported per 100 vehicles. Think about that. Nearly half of all new cars have a frustrating, glitchy, or distracting issue with the giant screen that now controls everything. Automakers, in a desperate race to look modern and cut costs, have eliminated physical buttons for essential functions. Climate controls, heated seats, even the glove box release are now buried in confusing touch menus. As J.D. Power's Senior Director of Auto Benchmarking, Frank Hanley, says, owners find these things to be overly complicated and too distracting to use while driving. This isn't just an annoyance, it's the new face of unreliability, and it has a real, tangible cost. It's a world where a minor fender bender triggers the ADACER totaling threshold. In 2026, insurance carriers report a 12% spike in total loss frequency for vehicles less than 3 years old. A minor 5 mph bumper tap that used to cost $800 now requires a $4,500 recalibration and sensor suite replacement because advanced driver assistance systems have moved sensors into crumple zones. This often exceeds the 70% value threshold for newer high depreciation models, turning a fixable car into a write-off. This is driven by a new manufacturing philosophy. To cut costs, manufacturers are moving towards zonal architecture. This leads to a massive component integration markup. For example, in certain 2026 truck redesigns, a broken interior door handle can no longer be replaced as a $40 part. Because it is heat-staked into the acoustic dampening, you are forced to replace the entire interior door panel at a cost of $1,100 plus labor. A single failure can now financially total an otherwise mechanically sound 8-year-old car. Who is going to spend $4,000 to fix the radio in a car that's only worth $8,000? This is the first pillar of the disposable car. The economic lifespan is no longer dictated by the engine's durability, but by the fragility and insane replacement cost of its integrated components. And while this is happening, the old mechanical demons haven't gone away. They've just gotten more complex. Take the recent Toyota Tundra engine failure. The problem isn't a simple gasket. It's microscopic metal shavings from the manufacturing process that can destroy the engine from the inside out. It's a modern, high-tech failure born from the pressures of a complex global supply chain and the race to push new, more efficient, but less proven engines to market. Even Consumer Reports, which continues to rank Toyota and Lexus highly for overall brand reliability, notes a critical pattern. Newly introduced or completely redesigned vehicles are almost always the most problematic in their first few years. The redesigned Tundra is a perfect example, seeing its reliability dip after its launch. This tells us that even the best brands are struggling with the sheer complexity of modern vehicles. It's a game of whack-a-mole. As they solve one problem, another, more complicated one pops up. The second reason the 20-year car is an economic fantasy is the brutal financial reality of just buying and owning a vehicle today. The entire equation has been turned upside down. Let's start with the price. In April 2024, the average transaction price for a new vehicle was $48,510. That number itself is staggering, but the forces behind it are what really matter. Since 2020, automakers have been squeezed by a perfect storm of economic pressures. Raw material costs for steel and aluminium have been volatile, and recent geopolitical conflicts have disrupted supply chains, adding hundreds, if not thousands, to the cost of every vehicle produced. This isn't just temporary inflation, it's a structural change in the cost of building a car. Manufacturers face an impossible choice: absorb these costs and kill their profit margins, or pass them on to you. They have overwhelmingly chosen to pass them on. At the same time, the cost of financing that wildly expensive new car has skyrocketed. In the second quarter of 2024, the average interest rate for a new car loan was around 7.3%. For buyers with prime credit ZSUCSID 1780, the average is still a high 6.87%, while those with super prime credit do a bit better at 5.25%. Just a few years ago, you could get a loan for half that. Today, you're paying thousands more over the life of the loan just in interest. So, let's put this together. You're paying a near record high price for the car, and you're paying a painfully high cost to borrow the money to buy it. This has a profound psychological effect. When you are stretched this thin, your tolerance for a massive, unexpected repair bill is zero. The days of saying, "Oh well, the transmission went out on my 12-year-old car, I'll just spend $4,000 to fix it," are over. Today, that same $4,000 repair on a car you're already paying $700 a month for feels like a betrayal. It feels like a financial breaking point. It's the moment the car transforms from an asset into a money pit. The pain of ownership is now so high from day one that the car's useful life is mentally shortened. You're not thinking about year 15, you're just trying to survive the 72-month loan without a financial catastrophe. And if you're feeling that pressure, it's more important than ever to be an informed buyer. The old rules don't apply anymore. That's why we create content like this every week, to give you the real data the industry doesn't always talk about. If this is the kind of analysis you find useful for protecting your wallet, take a second to subscribe to the channel. We go deep on the topics that actually matter so you can navigate this changing market. The third pillar of the disposable car is the most insidious, the technology depreciation cliff. For 100 years, a car's value was tied to its mechanical condition. Mileage, engine health, and rust were what mattered. Today, a huge chunk of a car's value is tied to its technology, and that technology is aging about as well as a carton of milk. Think about a premium car from 2016. Mechanically, it might be perfect, but its infotainment screen is probably low resolution, its software is laggy, and its navigation is a joke compared to your phone. That technological obsolescence makes the entire car feel ancient, and its resale value plummets because of it. This brings us to the digital support cliff. While 2026 software-defined vehicles are marketed with 15-year upgrade cycles, the hardware reality is different. The centralized systems on a chip used in these cars are built on consumer-grade silicon standards. Industry analysts forecast a digital obsolescence point at year 7, where the hardware can no longer support the security patches required for the car to remain connected or fully functional. After that, you're on your own. This creates a major conflict with the idea of long-term ownership. The mechanical parts of a new Toyota Camry are almost certainly engineered to last for 15 or 20 years. Dependability studies confirm that Toyota still builds some of the most mechanically robust vehicles on the planet, but will you want to own that car in 15 years? When its subscription features have expired, when you face the real risk of its software no longer being supported, And when its processor can't handle the newest apps, you'll be driving a mechanically sound vehicle that is, for all practical purposes, a technological fossil. This is the trap. The vehicle's physical shell is lasting longer than ever, but its digital soul is disposable. And since that digital soul now controls so many of the car's core functions and accounts for so much of its value, it's dragging the entire vehicle down the depreciation cliff at a terrifying rate. The 20-year car is dead not because its engine will seize, but because its electronic brain will be obsolete, making it an undesirable and financially irrational vehicle to keep. Now, it's easy to paint this as a cynical, planned obsolescence conspiracy, and while there's some financial engineering at play, the reality is more complicated. This shift toward disposable cars is also the result of a manufacturer's dilemma, a set of intense, conflicting pressures that have forced their priorities to change. For the last century, an automaker's main job was to be a great engineering and manufacturing company. Today, they are being forced to become technology companies, energy companies, and software developers all at the same time, and they are struggling. First, there's the monumental cost of electrification. The transition to EVs requires tens of billions in R&D and factory retooling. That money has to come from somewhere, and for most legacy automakers, it comes from the profits on today's gas-powered cars. To maximize those profits, they're using strategies like zonal architecture, aggressively cutting costs on components using more brittle plastics, sourcing cheaper electronics, and streamlining assembly in ways that can, as we saw with Toyota, let critical errors slip through. The priority has shifted from 20-year over-engineering to good enough for the warranty period to keep the cash flowing for EV development. Second, they are fighting a war on two fronts: software and hardware. As we've seen, modern cars are software-defined vehicles, rolling supercomputers. This has forced automakers into a battle they aren't equipped to win against tech giants like Apple and Google. Customers expect their car's interface to be as slick as their smartphone. But car companies are not software companies. The result is the buggy, frustrating infotainment systems that top the complaint charts year after year. And third is the sheer complexity of the global supply chain. A single car has over 30,000 parts from hundreds of suppliers around the world. A disruption in one tiny corner of the globe, a flood, a fire, a trade dispute, can bring an entire assembly line to a halt. This fragility puts immense pressure on automakers to simplify, but it also leads to inconsistencies in quality. When you combine these pressures, the need to fund EVs, the losing battle in the software wars, and a fragile supply chain, you realize that long-term, 20-year durability is no longer the #1 goal. The new priorities are managing short-term costs, pushing out new tech, even if it's flawed, and just getting cars off the line. They aren't necessarily trying to build a disposable car, but the disposable car is the inevitable byproduct of their struggle to survive. So, what does this all mean for you, the person who just wants to buy a good car without going broke? It means the very definition of a good car has changed. The promise that Toyota and other reliable brands once offered, the promise of a 200,000-mile financially sound asset, is broken. Not because the car can't physically last that long, but because the economic and technological world around it has made doing so an expensive, frustrating, and irrational choice. The 20-year car is dead because the cost of entry is now brutally high, with average prices near $50,000 and loan rates to match. It's dead because its value is now tied to a disposable technology core that hits a digital support cliff, making it obsolete in just a few years. It's dead because the new face of unreliability isn't a worn-out engine. It's a $4,500 ADAS repair from a fender bender or a $1,100 door panel to fix a handle, making a perfectly good car not worth fixing. And it's dead because the manufacturers themselves are trapped in a dilemma that forces them to prioritize short-term survival over long-term durability. This doesn't mean you can't buy a reliable car. Brands like Toyota, Lexus, and Honda still top the dependability charts for a reason. But it does mean you have to change your strategy. You can no longer buy on brand reputation alone. You have to favor models with simpler, more proven technology. You have to scrutinize the cost of replacing integrated components before you buy. You have to understand that the total cost of ownership is no longer just fuel and maintenance. It's about the risk of a catastrophic electronic or sensor failure. And it may mean embracing a shorter ownership cycle, treating your car more like a long-term lease, and getting out before the technology cliff and out-of-warranty repairs make it a financial liability. The world has changed. The cars have changed. The economics have been rewritten. The 20-year car was a product of a simpler time. We now live in the era of the 8 to 10-year disposable car. And if you don't want to become its next victim, you need to start thinking and buying differently. Thank you for watching.